When you look at the financial markets, it's easy to see just pure chaos, right? It's this frantic, totally unpredictable storm of numbers and charts. But what if it wasn't? What if hidden beneath all of that noise, there was a secret code, a blueprint that could actually predict the future? And that's where this quote from Sir John Templeton really hits home. The guy knew a thing or two about markets, that's for sure. I mean, think about it. From tulip mania way back in the 1600s to the dot-com bust, history is just littered with these financial panics that all kind of follow the same script. The details change, yeah, but that rhythm of greed and fear, it seems to be a constant. So, this belief in hidden patterns, well, that brings us to a legendary, almost mythical figure in the world of trading, William Delbert Gann. While pretty much everyone else saw chaos, Gann saw order. He was convinced that markets weren't random at all, but that they moved according to precise, predictable, even mathematical laws. So, who was W.D. Gann? Let's dig into the story of the man who claimed he could literally see the future of the markets. He came from some pretty humble beginnings on a Texas cotton farm, but his destiny was definitely on Wall Street. His fame just exploded when he reportedly called the exact peak of the 1929 bull market and the devastating crash that followed. And the legends, they say that by cracking the market's code, he built a fortune of over $50 million, which back then was an absolutely astronomical sum. But was he the real deal? Well, back in 1909, a financial publication decided to put him to the test. They watched him trade for 25 days straight, and the results were just staggering. Out of 286 trades he made, 264 of them were profitable. That's a success rate of over 92%. He took an initial stake of $450 and turned it into $37,000. Come on, this wasn't just luck, this was a system. So what was his system? How did he do it? Well, Gann's whole philosophy can basically be broken down into three core principles, what he called the secret keys to unlocking the market's blueprint. First up, you have pattern, this idea that specific identifiable shapes just repeat over and over again on the charts. Second was price. He paid super close attention to key price levels, especially that halfway point of a previous move. But for Gann, the third key, time. That was the most important of all. He believed it was the single greatest factor in figuring out where the market was headed. Okay, but what holds all of this together? This is where Gann's theory takes a turn from practical trading to something profoundly mystical. He called it the law of vibration. The basic idea here is that everything in the universe, from planets to people to individual stocks, vibrates at its own unique frequency. And Gann theorized that if you could discover the mathematical law that governed that vibration, you could predict its future. It was nothing less than a grand, unified theory of the market. And this quote from the man himself really just gets to the heart of his mindset. See, he wasn't just looking at numbers on a ledger. He saw stocks as these living, breathing entities, centers of energy creating their own fields of force, attracting and repelling traders, all according to some hidden mathematical script. Now, this search for mathematical law led him to focus on specific, harmonic numbers. The number 7, for example, was deeply important to him. Not just because it's all over the Bible, but because he saw it as this fundamental cycle of completion in nature. He actually used it to analyze short-term market cycles, watching for moves that unfolded over 7 days, or 7 weeks, or even 7 months. And that builds on another core number for him, 12. He connected this to the division of space and time, the 12 months in the year, the 12 signs of the zodiac. For Gann, this wasn't really about astrology in a psychic, predictive sense, but more about a larger geometric framework, like a cosmic clockwork that the market was just one part of. He also believed that by squaring these key numbers, their significance was amplified. So you take 12, multiply it by 12, and you get 144. That was a major number he watched for in both price levels and time cycles. So if a market reached 144 days from a major high or low, or if a stock hit a price of $144, in his view, that was a powerful signal that a major trend change was coming. I know this might look super confusing at first glance, but it's a tool Gann used to visualize all these relationships. By arranging numbers in a grid like this one, he believed he could literally see the mathematical harmonies and discords that drove market prices and find future points of support and resistance. Okay, so that's the big cosmic theory. It's fascinating, right? But how did Gann actually bring this down to earth and use it to read a stock chart and make a trade? He had a very specific method for this.
See, while most traders then and now are just obsessed with price, Gann insisted that you're only seeing half the picture. For him, the complete story was told by combining price with volume. Volume, he said, was the fuel, the power behind the move.
So using price and volume together, he looked for two key phases. The first is accumulation. That's when a stock is trading sideways for a long time, but insiders, the smart money, are quietly buying up all the shares they can. Then there's distribution. That's the opposite, a sideways period at the top where those same insiders are quietly selling to an unsuspecting public. And this is what it actually looks like on a chart. This congestion area, this period of just sideways movement, was everything to Gann. He believed that the longer a stock stayed in this range and the more shares that were traded there, the bigger the eventual move would be once it finally broke out. So after all that, what can we take away from this? Is there really a hidden code, a predictable pattern in what looks like a completely unpredictable world? Well, W.D. Gann certainly thought so. This quote from the Bible was one of Gann's absolute favorites, and it perfectly sums up his entire worldview. He believed that everything that can happen in the market has already happened, and it will happen again. The key is just to study the past to understand the future. And you know what? Here's a simple modern example of that exact idea in action. This chart shows a pretty clear seasonal tendency for the stock market to get weak in the autumn. Now, it doesn't happen every single year, but the pattern is undeniable. This is exactly the kind of historical, time-based cycle that Gann built his entire career on. Which leaves us with a final and pretty fascinating question. Was W.D. Gann really tapping into some kind of cosmic mathematical law of vibration that governs the entire universe? Or was he simply a master observer of something much closer to home? Human nature, with its predictable cycles of fear and greed that never, ever seem to change? The answer to that, well, that might be the most valuable secret of all.